You know how some games just have style? In modern gaming, when so many people for some reason drool over the amount of pixels on Peter Parker's left butt cheek, it's nice to play something that looks unique and stylish. Now you might ask, viewer, what do I mean by games that have style? Great question. As an expert in swag, I'd say that games with style are games that put extra effort in standing out with their visuals. It's the type of stuff that you would look at and go, wow, that thing has fucking personality. But obviously, style is more than simply the visuals, it's also music and sound design. I will also take that into account. So let's take a look at some games that do pull off that stylish look really well in my personal, very correct opinion. And we will start with the most recent game I've played, which is Hi-Fi Rush, and it's an excellent example of committing to the style. The game works with three concepts. First two is music and comics, and as far as I know, those two don't really go well together. Last time I checked, comics was something you're supposed to read, which is a mind-blowing concept for a bunch of you, I'm sure. But Hi-Fi Rush doesn't care, so they add gameplay into the mix and make it all flow together perfectly, which is quite surprising, considering that people developing this game were previously making the Evil Within series. But you know, those guys have some balls on them, because they also went with the decision to shadow drop the game. It came out the same day it was announced in 2023, even though it was in production since 2018. Interestingly enough, even though the project was quite a big gamble, the reason it got a green light was because Xbox Game Pass became a thing, and higher-ups believed that the game could gain popularity through the word of mouth. So think whatever you want of Game Pass, but I find opportunities like that to be quite amazing. But of course, since it's fucking Microsoft, they decided to shut down the studio behind Hi-Fi Rush, despite its critical acclaim. Classic move from our Microsoft guys here. The studio was later picked up by South Korean publisher Krafton. So don't worry fellas, it's not over yet. Okay, so what Hi-Fi Rush plays like? Well, it's a rhythm action beat-em up hack and slash type game. So think Devil May Cry, but it's actually Friday Night Funkin' and it kinda looks like Into the Spider-Verse. The visuals of Hi-Fi Rush obviously stand out a lot. All the animations are beautiful, environments are colorful, and the game uses cel shading. And hear me out, if you want to make a banger game that is going to age like fine wine, cel shading is your best friend. If done right, you can never miss with it. The cutscenes and gameplay also feature many comics elements in them, which just creates that amazing vibe. Oh, warning, this video's vocabulary has just been updated with a new word, which is vibe. Brace yourselves, I'm most likely going to use it a lot. So as I was saying, Hi-Fi Rush does a great job of capturing the vibe of a comic book, but it brings a lot of life to it, and music obviously helps. They probably spent quite a lot of time and money to get some of those tracks, man. Soundtrack features names like 9 Inch Nails, The Black Keys, and Prodigy. Music is a central part of this game, because everything in the world of Hi-Fi Rush moves to a certain rhythm, including environment, enemies, and you, the player, also have to try and move to the rhythm, since every combo, parry, and even dodge has to be on beat in order to be effective. The reason why everything moves to rhythm is because our protagonist Chai accidentally got an MP3 player infused in his chest. Oh yeah, the game has a story, unfortunately. Listen, I don't want to be too much of a hater, but the writing pretty much has that vibe of he's right behind me, isn't he? It's something that I can stomach, it's not as bad as in Neon White.
I spy with my little eye something flat.
Oh, I know! Is it White's ass?
I actually had to skip every cutscene in that game, but it's also not something that's going to blow my mind or make me fall in love with any of the characters, except the one guy who's just a walking JoJo reference. The world, however, is very cool. It's that very corporate sci-fi setting with robots and factories everywhere. Once again, the style shines through with every enemy and location design. I absolutely love it. As I said, they are committed. Everything in the game revolves around music, and I mean everything. You have to dash in rhythm, jump in rhythm, hit attacks in rhythm, parry in rhythm, which is not a new thing. I mean, we all know that Sekiro is basically a rhythm game. Even hitting certain supers starts a Guitar Hero-esque minigame. This is style, man. Let's keep it on the music theme for now and talk about Rush Cyberfunk. And I mean, the name alone is already fucking swag. On Steam it says Rush Cyberfunk is 1 second per second of advanced funk style, and I'm gonna pretend I understand what that means. The game itself is kind of a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio, another cult classic. And if you compare the two games, it's pretty clear where Cyberpunk draws its inspiration from. The game is, dare I say, a vibe. The developers are basically aesthetic maxing, and once again, to tie everything together, cel-shaded visuals and banger soundtrack come into play. The game does a perfect job of capturing this early 2000s Y2K style while feeling fresh and new. And while I do think that some aspects of the game, like battle segments, were not executed super well, the game is still a must-play if you ask me. Okay, enough with this cyberpunk shit. You can achieve a stylish look in many different ways, so how about we take a look at something that looks absolutely timeless, and that's of course CUPHEAD. The style of CUPHEAD was inspired by the golden age of American animation, including Walt Disney animations, and when I say they were committed to traditional animation style, I'm not joking. Every frame in the game was hand-drawn. For all of you 9-year-olds watching, that's when you take a piece of paper and put stuff on it with a pen. So that's no surprise this indie game took developers about 7 years to make. But when you look at it, you might think it took them 107 years to make. Visuals of CUPHEAD are spectacular. No other game actually could make me feel like I'm playing a cartoon. CUPHEAD is a boss rush. It has some run and gun segments, sure, but you will most certainly remember the game for its bosses. And Studio MDHR put a lot of effort into them. Every boss is so expressive. Their attacks, their idle animations, their designs are so memorable. I played the game the year it came out and haven't replayed it since, but I vividly remember each and every single one of those fights, which is something very few games were able to accomplish in my experience. The game is also difficult as shit. I think I was 13 when I played it and it made me a different type of man, I swear to god. Fuck this junk robot and this dice guy, I blame him for all of my gambling addictions. Okay, let's get a bit less specific. Since we are on the topic of retro style, let's just talk about games that purposefully go for that old school style. I think in recent years we've seen a shit ton of examples. Ultra Kill, for instance, has that old Quake look to it, and for a game that has so much blood and biblical references, that style fits perfectly. Or take a look at someone like Schmidt Workshops on Steam. I haven't played their games personally, but damn, they look so cool and nostalgic, but obviously way more polished for new systems. A game like Signalis also greatly benefits from that retro style, in my opinion. For some reason, I feel like a 12-year-old playing on PS2 late at night, while my parents are asleep, and all the horror elements of the game make me way more scared. And I don't know if that's just me, but realistic-looking horror games just can't spook me as much compared to a game stylized in some way. There is a certain level of roughness to those visuals that draws me in. The whole PS2 aesthetic is on the rise now, and we can probably expect a lot more projects that are trying to replicate it. One of the games I'm very excited about is The Big Catch. It's a 3D platformer that is very much reminiscent of the old PS2 era, and it even has that low resolution filter if you want to immerse yourself even deeper. Vibes are off the charts. I'd say that up there with cel shading is pixel art, another easy way to make your game look timeless. If I go back and play something like Heroes of Might and Magic 3, it really doesn't matter when that game came out because I can't get tired of looking at it. I am so happy that pixel art is still so popular. There is just something about it that goes so well with video game media. Many games benefited a lot from that pixel art style. Look at Stardew Valley, a very fun and cozy game about making a farm in some remote town. It's a vibe and a half, and I don't think it would have the same effect without its great pixel art. Now, maybe I don't like the influence of Stardew Valley, but I'm sure we can survive the cozy farm game epidemic. Undertale is a game that could not be made if not for the simplicity of its visuals. The entire game was made almost entirely by one guy, and even considering how bare bones art style of this game is, it still looks great. And by the way, I'm not trying to say that pixel art is easy to make, I'm sure it's not. And just like any other style, you could go crazy with it and make something that looks as beautiful as Sea of Stars, for example. But you know, sometimes it's not about making a whole unique looking art style for your game. Once again, I don't mind games going for something looking more realistic, but I will always appreciate even subtle stylistic choices. Just a little something in there to elevate your story and the world. I don't mind very cinematic looking cutscenes like in The Last of Us, for example. They look incredible, actors do a great job, it's fantastic. But oh my god, the noir comics from Max Payne just make me feel some type of way. And I swear to god, that's not nostalgia talking. I've replayed those games as an adult, and when the music hits and you see those visuals, man, that transcends the vibe in the best way possible. Another game that you might have heard about, called The Saboteur, have no idea if I pronounced that correctly. The game itself is the type of third-person action game that was really popular at the time, and even though it's not insanely innovative, there is a reason it's considered kind of a cult classic. In the story, you fight against German forces to liberate Paris, and every liberated territory looks normal and colorful, but if you go to parts of the map map captured by enemies, they are black and white until you occupy the area. I don't know if it's fair to call this stylistic decision small, but I think most devs won't think about putting something similar in their games, even though it would make their world more unique. I hope you didn't get the wrong sentiment from this video. I don't think the new realistic games bad, old cartoony looking games good. I know I poked fun at the new Sony Spider-Man games, but I like those games a lot. I think they did a great job at making a game that feels like playing as a superhero, with great combat and of course their basically perfect web swinging. But looking back at those games, the world just doesn't stand out at all. I mean, I guess it's just New York and you can't do much with that setting, but then I remember something like Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions and I instantly get whiplashed. Not only the game looks very comicsy because of cel shading, but the missions in the future when you play as Spider-Man 2099 or in the past when you play as Spider-Man Noir are just engraved into my mind. I immediately get a mental image of me playing it. We have more technology than ever before to bring the most insane styles to life, so why not do exactly that? Could you imagine a Spider-Man game that looks as crazy as the Spider-Verse movies? That would be generational, and instead now we go, well, graphics in Spider-Man 1 are clearly inferior in comparison to Spider-Man 2. Have you seen Catwoman's ass?